Hello everyone, I'm just going to preface this first by saying sorry for the delay. I've actually had these lights for a while, but I've just been really busy, so I haven't gotten these videos out. But here we are. This is the review of both the I1R and the I1R2. And I had originally planned to do a review of the first version of the I1R, but before I even finished writing the script, Olight decided they would release a new version that addressed my biggest concern with the first one, which I can't really complain about, especially because it didn't cost anything for me this time around. You probably saw a couple months ago now it was, Olight had this big Black Friday promotion thing, and I was able to get the I1R2 for free with the purchase of another light, which I will be reviewing later. Unfortunately, while I was hoping that the I1R2 would be identical aside from a couple of new improvements, there are actually several notable differences between the two versions, and while I still really like the R2, I think there are some reasons that one might actually prefer the original over the new version. That being said, considering the price point of these lights, I think they could together be some of the best lights in their class, and both come highly recommended from me. So the I1R comes in a suitably small box that contains the light, a micro USB charging cable, and the user's manual. The cable is rather short but is high quality with a flat wire and metal heads. The I1R2 does not include anything. It does not come with this cable, unfortunately. The I1R is a very small light, being only 4.1 centimeters long and 1.4 centimeters wide, and weighs in at only 14 grams. The R2 is slightly larger at 4.4 centimeters long and 1.5 centimeters wide. It is slightly lighter than its predecessor at 13.5 grams. And while on paper this isn't a very big difference, you can definitely tell it's a bit larger, considering both are so small to begin with. The lights are made of hard anodized aluminum and have a simple, clean design with no buttons or switches. The linear knurling on the R1 is very grippy, and in my opinion is probably a little too rough, as it will probably accumulate lint and dirt, but it gives a good hold on the light and allows it to be operated easily. The R2 has a slightly broader and smoother texturing, which makes it feel better in the hand while also being slightly harder to grip. To be honest, between these two, I kind of feel like the best option would have been to go with something sort of in between, not as aggressive as the R1, but a little more aggressive than the R2. I still like both of them. They give a good grip. I just feel like they could have done better the second time around. The rear of the light has a small stainless steel split ring for keychain attachments, and has an engraving that explains the operation of the light. It can technically tail stand, but it's not very stable while doing so. The light breaks in the middle where there is a micro USB port mounted in the side. The threads are triangle cut and are fully anodized and smooth to operate. The threads are also lubricated and are sealed with a standard nitrile O-ring and slathered in a generous helping of silicone lubricant. The head of the light places the emitter under a TIR optic lens. The lens appears to be made of plastic and is not AR-coated, which makes it the cheapest part of the otherwise very good build. On the R2, the lens is placed much closer to the bezel of the light, and on mine it was not very evenly placed in the head, it was actually slightly crooked. Both lights are powered by an internal lithium-ion battery which cannot be removed. The lights are overall very well built and seems like they will be very durable and reliable, especially due to the very simple design. They carry the standard IPX8 and 1.5 meter drop ratings. Between the two, I find that the original version feels slightly more solid, and I suspect that it is more durable due to being even simpler in construction than the I1R2, but in practice I don't think it will really make much difference. The biggest difference between the I1R and the I1R2 lies in the way the head is attached to the body. In the original version, the head is not attached at all, and detaching it completely is required in order to charge the light. The USB port cannot be exposed without completely removing the head of the light, and the charging indicator is placed on the top of the light underneath the head. This is the biggest flaw with the original, as the tiny head can be easily misplaced, which rather undermines the extreme compactness and portability of the light. In the R2, the head slides forward to expose the charging port without having to be removed, and the head is spring-loaded so as not to slide back over the port while charging. The charging indicator LED is placed beside the port rather than on top of the light. This is a big improvement over the original in my opinion, and completely fixes the issue that I had with it before. The spring-loaded head cannot be removed, but seems solidly attached. The R2 does not have any exposed threads once the head is extended, but both require the user to deal with a heavy application of lubricant when plugging the cable in. The interface of the I1R series is about as simple and intuitive as it gets. The light only has two modes, which are changed by tightening or loosening the head. From off, tightening the head slightly will turn the light to low mode, and tightening the rest of the way will activate high mode. Conversely, loosening the head will turn the light off. To charge the light, simply plug it in, after which the indicator LED will turn red while charging and green when finished. I really like this interface as it is extremely simple and requires no thought to operate. However, one issue I do have with these lights is that they must be loosened enough to ensure they stay off. as keeping them just slightly looser than low causes easy and frequent accidental activations. So you gotta make sure it's not like in between the modes, you have to loosen it all the way. Also, when you're switching the light to high and low modes, you have to make sure that it's loosened enough that it's not in between the modes, otherwise the light will flicker between modes. Because off is the slightly extended state, which exposes the inner tube, if one is not careful when loosening the head, the light may be extended enough to potentially compromise the water seal. Even if this is not so much a real issue for most users, it makes the light very quick to accumulate dust and dirt in the crevice between the two halves, which is only made worse by the abundance of lubricant. Worse, the version 2 is nigh impossible to clean completely due to its non-disassemblable nature. Still, these are just minor problems, and they are worthwhile trade-offs for the size of the light and the ease of use. The other big difference between the two lights is the emitter used. The I1R uses a Philips LuxWad LED, while the R2 uses an LED labeled only by Olight as a 5-sided glowing CSP chip-scale packaging LED, but I could not find the exact make and model. The performance of these lights is rather impressive for their size, but naturally they are not going to blow anyone away. On the I1R, the low mode is 5 lumens, which lasts for 7 hours, and the high mode is 130 lumens, which lasts for 20 minutes. High has an intensity of 730 candela, which produces an effective beam distance of 54 meters. The I1R2 is balanced to produce slightly more light, with a high mode of 150 lumens, which runs for 15 minutes, and a low of 5 lumens, which runs for 6 hours. Both lights take only 75 minutes to completely charge from empty to full, as they have the same battery. The runtimes of the lights are slightly longer than expected, as it turns out that the numbers Olight gives are only for the first 50% of the output, meaning that the light will run at reduced output after the listed time. In other words, high mode will run for about 20 minutes, and then another 20 minutes at a lower light level. The drivers appear to be direct drive, and the second half of the runtime is significantly lower than the first, but it is still nice to see that the lights have as long a runtime as they do, considering their minuscule battery size. Unfortunately, the emitter update is the biggest negative of the R2, and I believe it to be much more of a downgrade than anything else. This LED not only has worse runtimes, but is less concentrated and has a much less pleasing tint. The beam it produces is far more blue in color than the R1, and while it is okay on its own, it compares very poorly with the original version. The new light also has a lower intensity beam, which personally I do prefer as it does have a slightly wider beam profile, but the difference here is minimal. The other thing I noticed was that the R2 actually got noticeably warmer than the R1, though neither light got hot in the hand, despite their tiny size. Again, I believe the R2 gets warmer simply because its LED is less efficient. From my understanding, both have exactly the same battery size. Overall, I think the performance of these lights is very good for what they are, and is much better than most comparable Keychain flashlights. Unfortunately, I believe that the I1R2 is more of a downgrade in this department, as the LED used is an unpleasant blue color and is less efficient than the Philips emitter. Still, for what it is, I can't complain too much. So would I recommend this light? Absolutely. I think it is an excellent value and is extremely versatile due to its tiny size, easy operation, and simple rechargeability. Of course, in these reviews I like to complain about every tiny little thing that I can find, but really, overall, I think these are very good lights, and for the price, I highly recommend them. As for which version of the light I would recommend, it's honestly hard to say. Both are the same price, which is a very affordable $15, and both have their pros and cons. For most people, though, I would probably recommend the newer R2, as a spring-loaded head makes charging easier and improves the overall portability of the light. Considering it's just a lot more convenient since you don't have to actually remove the head from the light, you don't have to worry about misplacing it or anything like that. Still, if you can get past that particular feature, I think there are a few legitimate reasons why one might choose the R1 over the newer version, and I would not recommend upgrading to the new version if you already own the original, unless the detachable head is just a huge negative for you. Either way, you can't really go wrong, and again, I think these are fantastic lights that make a strong case for being attached to everyone's keychain. Anyways, I hope you liked this video, and if you enjoyed it, please remember to like and share, as well as subscribe to my channel. This particular review ended up being more than a little bit delayed, as I wasn't expecting this new version of the I1R to be released, but I am glad that it was before I uploaded this video. If there's anything I missed or that I got incorrect, please let me know in the comments below. If you know any more about the LED in the R2 as well, please tell me in the comments because I am very interested about that. If you have any suggestions for how I can improve this video or for other products that you think I should review, then please let me know. And again, thanks for watching, and who knows, maybe I'll get the next one out in a timely manner. We'll see. Probably not. These videos take me a long time.